E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinois Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. We're so glad that you've tuned in. If you're watching us live, we're just so great that you're here. If you're watching us, on a replay or something on YouTube or whatever, we're just so glad that you're watching us. We just want to provide some great infotainment for you today. And we've started our new programming last week for our fall schedule. Of course, on Mondays, we're going to be doing Making a Difference in Business. This is going to be a program every Monday featuring businesses, mainly the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, as they call them, the small business person working out of their house. On Tuesdays, today, Finding Health Naturally. And today's topic we're going to be focused in on, as you can see there on the marquee, gut health, because this is very, very important. I've become aware of it lately. We're also going to be talking a little bit about pets' gut health, which will be, I think, of interest to you. Wednesday, our program on every Wednesday is about youth making a difference. Now, this is twofold. This is going to be young people who have risen to above the crowd to be able to answer a call for a cause or for a business opportunity or whatever. Also, too, on the other side of the coin, it's going to be for people who have been mentors to young people and help them along the way to give them the leadership and guidance and encouragement that they need. So if you fall into that category, be sure and email us. I'll put our email address up there in just a moment at inspiration@e360tv.com, and let's talk. One of our staff members will get in touch with you. On Thursdays, this is a fun day. This is about pets we love. For you folks out there that may have a real cute little video, a good high quality video now because it's for TV, about your little pet doing something funny, if you'd like for us to, consider it for a plug and a play during the show, please send it to us and we will take a look at it and see if we can fit that in. But this is all about pets we love, the things they do, and pets just make our life worth living. They really do. So it's anything to do with pets. And Fridays is a very special day. Women in leadership. So with all of these categories, if you or someone would be a good fit for us, because we do storytelling here. This is not a sales presentation, okay? We do storytelling here. And if you or someone you think would be a good fit for us, or if you have a good little video or something like that, please let us know. All you have to do is email us here at the TV station, inspiration@e360tv.com. Our staff will get it and someone will get back in touch with you ASAP. And with me today is and I stole this phrase when I use it from Pawn Stars, when Rick calls the guy down there, I think his first name is Mark at the Clark County Museum, the Beard of Knowledge. We have our good friend, Mr. Joel Peterson, join us today. Hello, Joel. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Jim. Thank you once again for the invite.
Thank you, because I really appreciate the fact that you've worked many years with Dr. William Clearfield, and you've going on 8 years, I think, and you've seen his work right up front. You've seen what he has done in your life. And I'm still amazed. I mean, because when I first met you, you were not nearly the person you are today. No offense. I mean, you had a lot of issues, and I mean, I don't think you mind me sharing this because You had issues. You were down to 135 pounds. Your mother had to feed you to keep you alive. You were told PTSD was all up here. And we find out it starts in the gut. And that's why we wanted to talk about gut health today, not only for us as humans, but also we're going to mention a little bit about pets because their gut health is important too. But also, too, what's really impressive is that if you'll bend down a little bit, you can see. I mean, I've known in the past, just show the top of your head. You got some fuzz starting to grow up there, brother.
Amen. Yes, I do.
That is quite an accomplishment because, and I'm going to let you share a little bit about how the hormone therapy, because that plays a big part in what you and Dr. Clearfield do.
Correct. And we all hear about the gut-brain connection. And I don't really like that term. I like the gut-heart-brain connection. I believe all three are synonymous.
Yes.
And when those are coherent with each other, then your mind gets better. And it takes practice and discipline. And the hormones, everybody hears about the thyroid. Maintaining, Doc calls it your brake pedal or your gas pedal. That's what it is in relationship to the temperature and metabolism in the body. And that controls the body hormones, and the body hormones, we believe, control the brain hormones. And now they believe there's neurites in the gut and in the heart that communicate between all three. It's like little brain in the heart and little brain in the gut. So that's why emotions, like right now I'm in the middle of moving. So everybody says that moving is stressful.
Oh, it is.
And no, I understand. But technically it's not the moving that's stressful. It's what might happen at the end of the move. We're afraid of what might happen. Am I going to be in the right place? Is it going to be loud where I might move in? Is things going to fall apart? So we're getting stressed based on our emotions. And so I've learned over the years that eating right and exercising right and sleeping right stabilizes and calms down the gut. And that helps produce better hormones, which helps stabilize the hormones in the brain. And therefore your mind is able to turn the stress into excitement.
Yeah. Before we get started into gut health, I just want to, we mentioned it just briefly right before we went live. And I want to just mention this out there to you folks in TV land. Over the last several weeks, I've seen a lot and I've heard a lot. It seems like everybody, sees a video, they want to make one, and then somebody else wants to make one. The problem with that is I don't see any, proven other than this is what you do, this is what you get. I'm talking about the saltwater flush. And I've seen videos, maybe you have too, where people talk about getting up early in the morning, right after you get up, and you take water that's a little warmer, as I understand it, than just water, than room temperature, and you put 2 teaspoons of either Himalayan pink salt or sea salt into the water. You mix it up, and then you drink that whole 32 ounces within 5 minutes, which seems a little radical to me. And what it does, it cleanses out the small intestine, which is good for you. But, Joel, I asked Joel before, the show, had he heard of it, and he hadn't. And the thing that really, I want to ask you this, Joel, it seems like rather than going through a flush, which seems kind of radical because what are you going to do? Wait till you need another flush? It seems like you're going up, down, up, down, up, down like that. I'm more of a moderation guy. I'm more of a maintenance guy. And you mentioned something about, I'm just going to let you pick it up from there because you can say it better than I can, sir.
Gray salt. There's research out there that gray salt, real gray salt, that's not too processed, is good for the body, and it has the minerals that we need. And celery juice. There's a big push right now with Celery Juice.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Williams, the medical medium, he's one of the advocates, nutrition people that advocates this, and he says it's the salts that what we need. So myself and my dad, we do 8 ounces every single morning, and it's the first thing we drink. And the Asian populations, I believe it's mostly the Japanese, if I'm correct, when they wake up, that's what they do. They do a cup of water. They don't put salt in it. They just do water. And some of them do tea, you know, their matcha tea or their green tea. It's real huge with them. But they believe waking up and drinking water first thing in the morning.
That's what I've heard, is that they get up in the morning. And of course, when I went to cardio rehab, the person there told me, the nurse there told me, she says, in the morning when you get up and you go to the restroom and you drain your bladder, that's when you should weigh yourself, because that's actually your honest, true weight, because you've been fasting overnight. Now, and of course, I heard the Japanese, it was mainly what I read about the Japanese. They were notorious about getting up in the morning. First thing they do is drink a glass of water. And that's why that really does help you lose weight. There's no question about that. It really does. Now, you mentioned gray salt, and you mentioned what you and your dad are doing. Number one, where do you find your gray salt at? And how is it different than sea salt? And number two, what is your mixture in that 8-ounce glass? Okay. He went to the store to get me some sea salt, folks, or gray salt.
Right. Well, I use the gluten-free, non-GMO Himalayan sea salt, so I've got that. Then we have what's known as real salt, and the real salt, they get underground, not above ground. That way you avoid the pollution. And then I use your basic Selena Naturally Celtic sea salt, and you can get this at Whole Foods or Natural Grocers. And that's fine ground. That's your good gray salt. And what I do in my coffee in the morning after I do the celery juice is I just do a couple sprinkles of each. I don't do a lot.
Just like a dash? Just like a dash?
Yep. It probably comes out, I think altogether it'd be probably a quarter teaspoon.
That's what I'm kind of thinking too. Yeah.
You don't need a lot.
Now, in the morning you get up, you use the celery juice,
right?
And explain or share with us, if you would, how you do that. You put celery into a blender and blend it up, or grind it up, or
we actually use a juicer, and we juice it at night. Put it in the fridge, and we have 2 little 8-ounce bottles that we put into the glass. We like glass. We like to use as much glass as possible.
Yeah.
And you're theoretically, the closer you can juice it and drink it, the better for you. So if you're sick, or if you're really dealing with some hardcore cancers or something, you might want to juice it first thing in the morning. And it's the same thing with foods. Going to Whole Foods, well, if you go to Whole Foods that you just picked from the garden, they're still in essence energetic, and they still have they're still growing. So if you can get like Brussels sprouts that's on the sprout, and you can pull it off the sprout, this is how you get energetic food and healthier food, and it's way more better for you.
Yeah. It's really amazing. And all those salts you showed us, the Himalayan pink salt, the gray salt, and the sea salt, you get it at Whole Foods or wherever, something like that?
Correct.
And that's really
Redmond is the name of the real salt. They've got their own online, and then Celtic sea salt. I guess this is Selena Naturally would be the name. It's a vital mineral blend. And then the Himalayan, I don't know who this is. Himalayan salt. Interesting. I'll have to find out.
They talked about a Himalayan pink salt. Maybe that's what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, just do your research on there. We know that regular table salt, it's been processed, and it is not in the league of those salts that Joel is talking about. And Joel, you work with Dr. William Clearfield there in Reno, and I think we still have his information up here. Let me search for it a little bit. There it is.
Sure.
Dr. Clearfield's website is drclearfield.net. And you can, because you've been there with him for going on 8 years, and you've come a long, long way, and it's really helped you. But when it comes to our gut health, a lot of people don't realize how important our gut health is. Would it be kind of a safe thing to say that is the foundation of your, where you put your cornerstone for your foundation for your health? Is that a fair statement?
I take it a step further. It's life or death.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Imagine if your top athlete goes out in the Mojave Desert and you don't drink no water. In 5 days, you're going to start to hallucinate on a 120-degree day, right? Your normal human might make it 3 days, 4 days. It depends on how good you are and how healthy you are, but you'll start hallucinating.
Yes.
Okay. So people like to say, well, you're hallucinating because you're mental. It's in your mind. No, you're hallucinating because you're dehydrated and you didn't eat. So you're losing your salts and you're losing your water. Okay. And we don't have to eat right away, but we have to have the water.
Yes, you're exactly right. I'm glad you brought that up, because back in 1986, I was still in the reserves, or the National Guard at that time. And we went out on a field training exercise, and I got a little dehydrated. And the very first thing that happened to me that the others recognized that I didn't was that I was starting to get a little confused.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense, because someone would say, hey, I think, Jim's starting to, fly the coop here, and it has nothing to do with my mental. It has everything to do with my gut and lack of water and stuff like that. I'm out of balance is what it is. Yeah. And I'm glad you put that out, shared that with us, because our gut health, I did not realize this, Joel. And when it comes to our gut health, it says each person, I'm getting this from healthline.com. I sent you that link, but it says that each person, listen to this, has about 200 different species of bacteria, viruses, and fungi in the digestive tract. Right. I did not realize that.
And they actually, it could be in the thousands, actually. It's hard for them to measure it, and
I can see why. See why.
It's amazing. It's everything. And in the foods that you eat, that's why we have such a big argument over meat or grains or starches and sugars. And I like to say that a gun has never killed no one, and a donut never made no one fat.
That's right.
We the people do it.
Yes.
Okay. And it depends on how. And I sat in front of one of our special donut shops one day, and 80% of the people that went into the donut shop were thin.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. I never paid attention to it. Point being is, you can get away. Everybody always talks about the 80-20. I even do it. I don't freak out that much, but I'm organic. And like right here, and I don't get paid or sponsored by none of these people. It's just what I use.
Sure.
This is Berlin Natural Bakery, sourdough bread, old fashioned.
Looks good.
They're one of the first bakers in America that got certified non-GMO, because they did it the old fashioned way. So it has to be, it's frozen, and then you put it in the fridge, and it's real bread.
Yeah. That's real breadcrumbs, right? But, you look back at the baby boomers, what the greatest generation, our parents, they didn't go to gyms and exercise. They didn't do all this stuff we do today. I don't think my dad ever owned a pair of tennis shoes.
Right.
He may have, but I don't recall ever seeing him. He just wore regular shoes, slip-on shoes or lace-ups or whatever. But they didn't have the weight problems that we have today. They just didn't. And of course, the foods they were eating were a lot more healthier then. But let's get back into this gut health here. You know, I did not realize all the different species of bacteria and viruses and fungi that's in our digestive tract. And some obviously can be harmful to our health, but many are incredibly beneficial and even necessary for our health. What's really what I found interesting here, this is a comment that they said, and I want to share this with you if I may, folks. It says research indicates that having a large variety of bacteria in the gut may help reduce the risk of conditions like diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, and arthritis. That is incredible, isn't it?
Like I said, it's life or death. It's everything. It all starts. It really does start in the gut. And many of us have heard it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why digestive enzymes, many believe, we have one called wobazyme, and there are some doctors out there that use it for cancer, that treat cancer, to make sure you eat what, or you absorb and you digest what's available.
Yeah, because a lot of the plants that we eat, they have a poison in them. It's called oxalic acid, oxalic acid, and it has been shown in many tests that oxalic acid will attack abnormal cells like arthritis and cancer and things like this. It's in our the one vegetable I remember that has the highest level or content of oxalic acid, ladies and gentlemen, is parsley.
Yeah.
And so many times when I want to, recharge oxalic acid a little bit, I will put it under my tongue, the parsley.
Right.
And I'll just, let the juices be absorbed, because when I was in the hospital and they give me the nitro for my heart attack, they don't tell you, you do not swallow that pill. They want that under the tongue so it can be absorbed into the blood. You need the benefits of the oxalic acid into the blood rather than in the gut. And that's just the way it is. But I want to go into, probiotics and prebiotics. I'm a little bit ignorant of those two things. I know they exist. I know they got different purposes. One time I went to the doctor and he wanted me to start using I forget the brand name, but it was Probiotics. I remember it was Pro, it wasn't Pre. You want to share some information on probiotics or prebiotics, or do you guys use that in Dr. Clearfield's practice there? Or
we have some, and there's some very, very high level prebiotics and probiotics. They're semi-expensive. And the research is still out, shall we say, on that. So we try to stabilize hormones, and we try to stabilize your diet system and your hydration system. We try to balance you out before we start to slam you with pills.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I like that philosophy, because I always subscribe to the fact that living healthy and doing things in moderation so you don't shock your body.
Yes.
That's been my experience, because I tell people that after I had my open heart surgery, they had me on these, medications, and one of them, oh my goodness gracious, it was working my kidneys overtime. I'd go to bed, and about every hour to maybe hour and a half, if I was lucky, throughout the night, just like clockwork, I'd wake up and I'd have to go to the restroom and drain my bladder.
Yeah.
And so one night I figured, I'm going to try to at least get 2.5, maybe 3 hours sleep before I start this every hour and a half cycle or sometimes it's every hour cycle, getting up, going to relieve myself. So I took one of the pain pills they sent me home with. Now I didn't have any pain, but I figured I was just, going to, fudge a little bit. That didn't work too well for me. Right. And I'll tell you why, because when I woke up again about an hour and 15 minutes later, I gotta go, and I got up, and guess what? I was all kind of woozy. I had to sit down in the bed and kind of like, get my bearings. And I figured, well, that's one cheap thrill I'm not going to try again. Because I didn't have to hand walk the wall, but I kept my hands on the wall going down to help stabilize me. That's how, it was. And of course, then I started the process of looking, how can I, treat my heart? Because I did not like what I was seeing on all the side effects of the medication I was prescribed. Excuse me a minute.
Sure.
Had something there in my throat. But when it comes to improving your gut health, I want to get back into this a little bit. Your gut is very complex. It's a lot more complex than what a lot of people realize, and it's important for your overall health as a topic to increase the research in the medical community. It's very much so. Studies are being done all the time, and they definitely have found links over the last several decades between gut health and your immune system. They work together in perfect harmony, don't they, Joel?
Yes, to say the least. And your emotions and your immune system work together. And Dr. Gabor Mate, I've been studying lately, he's a trauma and an addiction specialist, and he believes that a lot of our emotions and our stress, our perceptions and our beliefs come by how we were brought up, including schools, including TV, including culture, and the Aborigines and tribes. They wouldn't put their kids down. Very, very rare for the first year. And some tribes you're not allowed to. Someone always has to be carrying the kid and loving the kid. And he calls it attachment. And you develop your authenticity at that time. More of it in your 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old. But 1 and 2, we're taught in our culture that if the baby's crying, just sit it down and leave it alone and let it cry in a room by itself. So we develop traumas and we develop emotional traumas. And we start to stress out our stomach, and we damage those probiotics and the prebiotics. We damage those bacterias. And so we're growing up sick. And so our job is to balance that out right now and to be nicer on ourselves. And you've got to stay away from a lot of the fake food.
Oh, yeah. As you're talking about that custom, it made perfect sense to me because, the baby for 9 months, as it's being developed and becoming life, it is life at conception, what I believe in, but as it develops into a baby, it's brought, gets obviously when the mom delivers it, it's delivered out of the womb. Now it's went from a very safe place where it had everything it needed, and now it's out in this big open world just like us. And I could see where holding a baby, and having that baby attached to somebody, because we're social creatures, we cannot live without love, period. I don't care who you are or what you say, we just can't. And I can see that would be a huge benefit. Go ahead, sir.
They tested it in Germany, World War II. The Nazis would take a baby from one of the Jewish mothers, and they would put the baby in the middle of a room, and they would feed it, but they wouldn't let no one attend to the baby. So the baby had no attachment to no one. And the babies, even though they were feeding them, the babies would die.
Wow.
We have to have attachment. It's that important. And why do you think God made a baby cry? There's a reason a baby cries. It's not because it's angry at you. It's not because it's mad. It's not because it's a baby. It's because it's a natural way to say, hey, I want to be attached. I need some love right now. And so they pick up on our energy. They pick up on our heat. There's a reason they cry. And we damage that in this country. And now we have a lot of cesarean C-sections. It's a huge number right now. And so once again, that bacteria with a natural birth gets disturbed. So we're disturbing a lot of natural processes in this country. And America has literally now become one of the sickest most overweight nations on earth.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing because, ladies and gentlemen, I've never heard, Joel share this with us. And of course, I put down Joel's email address there and his phone number. That's his personal cell phone number if you would like to get in touch with him there and ask him any questions there or contact Dr. Clearfield there because Joel works very close in harmony with Dr. Clearfield. But it makes perfect sense when you say that. And that's one of the things I love about truth. When you hear the truth and you know that it's the truth, it just ding, kind of like the lights go on and you see the light. You really do. And, it really does, it's just, that's what I love about doing the show here, because we're able to reach out and touch people and enhance their lives and all that, because they list here 7 signs of an unhealthy gut. And of course, these symptoms can be applicable to other things, but they talk about high stress levels. And that makes perfect sense, Joel, because if your gut's out of whack, and I mean, just think when you have a stomach ache or if you don't feel good to your stomach, your patience is a little bit shorter than it normally is. Would you agree with that?
Amen, to say the least. That's why all the road rage is out there right now.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, because people's gut health, if your gut is not healthy, you're not happy. That's just a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And they talked about the high stress levels, also not enough sleep. Let me put it like that. Not enough sleep. We hear so much about how much sleep we need. And Joel, I'm the kind of person, if I go to bed at 10 or 10:30, I wake up around 4 or 4:30 and I'm ready to go. And I go all day long.
Yeah.
And so they say 8 hours, but I couldn't stay in bed for 8 hours to save me. So I don't know if I'm getting enough, or maybe I'm getting enough for me. Maybe that's all I need. Maybe I have him power naps for 6 hours. Remember we used to hear about the power naps?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And some still recommend it. They do have a thing called polyphasic sleeping. And there are some very important people that used to do that. They would sleep 2 4-hour segments or 2 3-hour segments.
Yeah.
Some people like myself, I'll get up real early, do a few hours of research and lay back down, and I'll kind of nod off and get back up. And I do my meditation then. But at the same time, one of the neurologists I know, he believes that caffeine's huge in deep sleep. And we know that caffeine roughly has around a 5-6 hour half-life. So that means it has a full life of 12 hours. So the last time you drank caffeine, 12 hours later, it's still technically in the blood-brain barrier. And so you don't really get into what he calls the 4th stage deep sleep.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
which is even above REM sleep. And according to him and some others, this is where we can repair our traumatic brain injuries.
Wow.
It's
That's
pretty
huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, one of our good friends here, one of the hosts and director of marketing, Mr. Emerson Brantley. Emerson, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, and we're going to, looks like we're going to be able to set up maybe a program where we can follow his journey a little bit. And he's got a good background, and we're going to see what we can do there, because traumatic brain injury affects a lot of people's lives, not only the person that suffers it, but the family that suffers along with it, just like any other disease. And that's going to be interesting to see how all that works out. But when it comes to, improving our health, it talks about eating a Western diet. That's high processed and high sugar foods. Why would they target Western diets, Joel? Why would they say eating Western diets is not good for you?
It's been proven.
Wonder why.
It's been proven in some of what we call the blue zones. Okinawa, Japan is one of them for sure. As soon as they start to take in our foods and eat our diets, boom, they start to get sick, and it happens fairly fast. It's horrible. It's just horrible.
I can see that happening real fast because their body is so used to a certain amount of nutrition. And then that'd be like, putting oil in the gas tank.
Yeah.
It really would be. My goodness gracious. That makes perfect sense. And then, of course, they talk about if you take other medications, antibiotics and stuff like that, all of these synthetic, see, our body's organic, we know that. But when you put synthetic products into an organic body, it's really not set up to process that. I mean, Joel, you probably put it in better words than I can, but it seemed like to me the best that the body can do is just kind of like get rid of it, push it out through the digestive system if it can get it out or whatever. I don't know. But it does make sense. If it's not organic, your body cannot process it because your body is a processing center, not a recycling center.
Amen. Well said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why homeopathic medicine back in the day was powerful and worked. Mm-hmm. What they try to do is replace just the right amount that the body needed to get the body to realize you're missing something, and this is what you need. Once your body realizes what it needs, it starts to produce it itself.
Yeah. I remember back in the 90s, I came down with something, and no one knew what it was. I had this hacking cough, and it just wouldn't go away. It's just like a smoker's cough, except I didn't smoke. And it was very aggravating because, well, I was running my business then. If the phone rang, I'd pick it up and start to answer it, and then I get a tickle in my throat, and I've got a cough and cough and cough and cough. And they did chest X-rays on me. They gave me 2 or 3 different types of cough syrup and everything else. I even mooned the nurse and got a few right into the old keister. You know what I mean? And nothing worked. And my wife and I, we were at a little grocery store somewhere in Katy, Texas, and she says, "Jim, this homeopathic." And I didn't know much about homeopathic. And she says, "This is for cough. You want to try this?" And I says, "I might as well. I've tried everything else." And then after a couple of days, that cough was gone. Wow. So I figured after 3 months, this thing has run its course. Well, the very next year, I came down with the same thing. And I started taking those little homeopathic, they got it from a company called Highlands, and homeopathic cough, and very inexpensive. And they have kind of a, I don't know what kind of a taste you'd say they have, but it's pleasant, but it goes underneath the tongue. And again, you want it in your bloodstream, not your gut. And it just knocked that cough right out. And I'm going like, are you kidding me? I mean, after all the things that I went through, I went to the doctor several times, x-rays and, cough syrups and pills and shots and, this little bottle, and it lasted me for 2 or 3 years, I think it was. And because every time I get a cough, I just take it, knock it right out. I'm going like, holy smokes, that's amazing. So that's what started opening my mind that there is another area out there. Because I remember things like, acupuncture and going to a chiropractor and things like that with the established medical community, they were frowned upon. Yeah. It was like you're going to see somebody that comes in to see you. They got chicken bones around their neck or something like that. I mean, they looked at it like voodoo medicine.
Oh, yeah. And a good way to expunge on that is the cancer centers throughout America. What happened with the cancer centers and acupuncturists was the acupuncturists started setting up their offices around the cancer centers because after they were getting their chemotherapy and their radiation therapy, they were getting nauseated and they were throwing up. And so they started to realize that acupuncture works. So they started going to the acupuncturist so they could drive home without throwing up and being all nauseated and dizzy and everything.
Wow.
And then the cancer centers were like, hey, we're losing a lot of money. We better hire the acupuncturists and put them in the cancer centers.
It's funny how money talks.
It's even the VA now. The VA has started to admit that acupuncture and chiropractics work, and so they're bringing them also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to our pets, they too suffer from gut health problems just like we do. And I was seeing something the other day from this gentleman who talked about, he was talking about, I didn't get a chance to see it all, unfortunately, but he was talking about when a dog starts like chewing on their paws or licking their paws or something like that. I've had that happen. And what they said is that, or what he said, he was a veterinarian. He said that what's happening there is that there is a certain, I forget what he said there. It's being released through the pod of the dog's paw. And the dog is chewing on it and kind of like wanting to get rid of it. It says the problem is not in the paw, it's in the gut of the dog.
Amen.
And so I'm looking at veterinarians.org. This is a website just for veterinarians. And it says here, there's a variety of ways you can improve your dog's gut health, including giving a healthy diet, adequate physical exercise, including supplements like CBD and turkey tail mushrooms. And there's a lot that you could see. Our dogs suffer from the same thing that we do.
Yes,
if we eat processed food, we're going to suffer from our gut health. If they eat food that's not natural to them, that's processed, they're too going to suffer gut health. That kind of goes hand in hand. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does. That's why some dog handlers and veterinarians recommend switching over to some of the soft, wet food as your dog gets older. It's easier to digest. And they do have a lot of healthy dog foods out there now. And they're even going grain-free on some of the dogs. And we think that the grain, like these grains, they're not sprayed with Roundup. That's why they got certified non-GMO. So we think the grains got a bad rap because it was the Roundup, we believe, that is destroying the gut lining and possibly some gluten. The same thing with the gluten. This does have some gluten in it. It's natural gluten, but it's not the added gluten that's turned into a powder from a genetically modified wheat that has been sprayed with Roundup. So we believe that the bad gluten and the bad grains is damaging us because of the poisons and the toxins and the chemicals. That's why our grandparents didn't have problems and stomach problems back in the day when they ate the wheat bread or they ate the grains or they ate the corn, or that they didn't have these problems. And at the same time, they were out there gardening. Most people, when I grew up, we even had a garden, and I remember having salads and you tasted some of the dirt. That's how we that's how we got our probiotics and our prebiotics. We were eating naturally. So now there's a big push in America, and a lot of people are getting back to that. So really good to hear.
It really is. And when you talk about that, I remember growing up on a farm there. The first 12 years of my life, my dad had a farm, and the produce that we raised, my goodness gracious, it was just delicious by itself. My aunt would come over, and ladies and gentlemen, she'd take, we would go down and we would pick salad. That's what we call it, with salad. And it was greens. It could be mustard greens, whatever. And she would also get poke salad. That's a weed that grows wild. Now, I did not know it then, but I wondered why. She boiled it and she drained it. And then I guess she, I don't know if she boiled it twice, but she had to boil it and drain it because poke salad in its natural state has poison in it.
Wow.
And it had to be boiled and drained. And then she would scramble it up in eggs with the mustard greens and the different salad that we had there. And I'm telling, and she would take cornbread and from scratch, and make it into a big cake, and she would fry it in an iron cast skillet. And I'm telling you, that was some of the best rations I had growing up. And a lot of people say, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
Let me just say this. You don't know what you were missing, because that stuff was really tasty. I mean, nowadays they rely on, different seasonings and things like that to bring up the zest. But the way my Aunt B did it, she could have that stuff almost dancing on the plate for you. It was that good. It really was. And it was good for you.
Yes.
That was the beauty in it. It was good for you. Oh my goodness. It's a win-win situation. Go ahead.
I just thought about this. I wanted to make sure I brought up the difference between sensitivities and allergies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really huge. A lot of us don't realize this. We have sensitivities, and then we have allergies, and then you can have anaphylactic shock. Allergies, you usually know you'll start sneezing. You might have hives. That means you're really allergic to a certain food. It's very rare to figure that out unless you do an elimination diet. Sensitivities, you might have a sensitivity to 2 or 3 foods that you're eating. So you're in essence deficient macroly and microly, because you can't really absorb what you're eating because you're sensitive to these certain foods. That's why an elimination diet and not eating a whole lot of stuff can really be beneficial. So you start out with some fruits and some vegetables, and add in a little bit of meat if you need be, because some people are good with it and some aren't.
Oh,
and that's really take into effect.
That's really a good point that you brought up, Ryan. I'm glad you did, because it's very important for us to know the difference, because sometimes you can eat too much of something, and it could be more than what your body can actually handle, and that becomes you're sensitive to it. It's not an allergy. You're just giving it more than it actually needs. As, hey, I can't take anymore. It's kind of like sitting down and having that second piece of cake, and then you go, oh, I wish I hadn't ate that cake. I'm suffering now. You're just giving your body too much. And
amen. And that's where fasting comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
You hear about intermittent fasting, and in a nutshell, what that means is don't eat after like 4 or 5. That way you give yourself 12, 14, some people go 16 hours without eating, so you could digest everything.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I've said this before many times on the show, but I didn't know it till about 10 or 15 years ago, that I didn't realize it. Let me say that. But when you go to sleep at night, your body's actually fasting.
Yeah.
And some people believe that, it's best to drink a full glass of water before you go to bed. And I'm thinking, well, if I do that, I got to get up and go take a whiz or something, But the main thing of it is your body is fasting when you are sleeping. And that is why the nurse told me, when you get up in the morning, you drain your bladder. That's when you weigh yourself, because that is your actual true weight. And it kind of makes sense. And then the funny part of it is what do they call the first meal of the day? They name it breakfast, because you're actually breaking fast. Amen. They call it break fast breakfast. And that's where that term came from. I didn't know that. I didn't know why they call it breakfast. It never dawned on me it was 2 words put together, break fast, but that's exactly what you're doing.
And look at all the cultures around the world and certain religions. We fast. A lot of religions fast. Some at night, some on Saturdays, the Sabbath. Some fast for weeks or quite a while. It's pretty amazing when you really think about it. It's all about the gut. It truly is.
It really is. And in my studies, and this is one thing I need to say out there for just for, legal reasons or whatever, make sure anything that we share with you, you discuss with your doctor. I mean, that's very, very important. And we don't want to be like a good example is there's all these videos popping up. We talked before about the saltwater flush. And the sad part of it is a lot of people, without doing proper research or discussing anything with their doctor, will just, take it as gospel when they don't even know the person.
Yeah.
They don't even know their credentials. I mean, they don't know anything about them. Yeah. And it might be a wonderful treatment for them, but for you, it may not be. And I'm just talking about that in general.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did in my research with my heart is I found that beets are really good for the heart. So even though I never really liked beets, I like them now. I figure if they like me, I'm going to like them back. That's the right thing to do,
Right. Amen to that. Yeah, no, I actually have a beet powder, and so, like I said, I don't get paid by this, but it's just what I do. This is the organic beetroot from Whole Foods, and it's one of the powders. I do Health Force fruit and vegetable powders in my coffee, and I also do mushrooms in my coffee.
Yeah.
So my coffee has a reason and a purpose. I do want to go to decaf, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. I'm thinking about switching over to decaf.
Decaf coffee?
It may have more chlorogenic acid, and that's more of an antioxidant.
Is there the process that I've looked at for decaf coffee? It's pretty harsh, some of the things they use. True, and that's why I've stayed away from it. Is there a better process that they have for taking the caffeine out of
they have cold processes, the Swiss processes, the Swiss cold press, I believe it's called. So they don't use the chemicals to decaf. It's not as harsh.
Yeah.
So and at the same time, Dr. Pam Popper, she has a tea that she sourced from the Ming Dynasty in China, and it's actually a real tea, and she's got the real license to it, and she's been using it for a long time, so it's a real good tea, and I might switch to that next. Keep you updated on that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun because as we go through this Tuesday, Finding Health Naturally, we're going to be covering a lot of topics like this, and make sure you do your homework, and make sure if you just see a video, and I'm not picking on anybody that does the saltwater flushes. I'm not saying it doesn't work. What I'm saying is that don't take someone that you don't know anything about. They don't have any type of test or knowledge or degrees or anything like that. Just don't take that blindly, because if you don't know what you're doing, even if you're doing something naturally, you can hurt yourself or harm your health. Be prudent. Check with check with a doctor. Check with people in the know-how. Read as much as you can, just like on beet juice. I mean, I studied up on that.
Right.
And I looked at different tests, and I made the decision for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've seen people, whenever a so-called guru on TV says, hey, like this particular, I'm not going to name any products or anything, because then I might give myself away, but this is kind of like the next fountain of youth, and people just flog there blindly.
Yeah.
And what's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander, because I found out that I was allergic to garlic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it might have been the amount that I was taking or whatever, because my wife was taking garlic back in the early 80s. And at the same time, I got these flea and tick collars from my pets. And I broke out in a rash on my neck. My neck just turned, real thick, red, like leather, and it itched. And she said, why don't you stop taking the garlic? See, I was thinking, hey, I probably got some of that chemical off that collar scratching my neck. That's what made sense to my bird brain. But I stopped taking it, and it went away. I started taking it. Same thing happened. So even though we heard all these wonderful claims about garlic, what was good for the goose was not good for the entire ganders. That's my point. So be aware of that. Find something that works for you. Do your research. Get in touch with Joel, Dr. Clearfield there. Let me put your website up one more time as we get ready to go. Close the show out and get out of here. I got to find it here. We got a bunch of them here I keep. But Dr. Clearfield at drclearfield.net. Be sure and get in touch with him. Check it out. And ladies and gentlemen, and Joel, thank you very much for being with us again. My goodness gracious. I just really, we're friends and we go back a ways, and I just love being on the TV show with the Beard of Knowledge.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Jim. It is such an honor.
Well, thank you. It's our honor and privilege to have you here. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We sincerely hope that this show will help you open your eyes and open up your mind. And most importantly, get you to thinking that you can improve your health. Be sure, and one thing you should do is make sure you love yourself, then you can love others. And as Donald likes to say, be sure and give yourself grace. We hope that you and your loved ones are healthy, happy, and enjoying life. And we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be covering youth making a difference. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.